Arrington, but we have a cool thing. This would never happen in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. We address you to your face as a grown man in Pittsburgh. That's the difference between playing in a locker room with the Steelers and Giants. Wow, the Giants got a shot out there.
Well, he did win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Versus the Dallas Cowboys. Take that. Brew your reaction.
Agreed. Agreed with Plaxico Burress. This is what I've been saying for years. The Dallas Cowboys, first and foremost, are a circus. They are an entertainment entity. Okay. And then down the line, they become a football franchise. Mm-hmm. But it's not the first priority. They make tons of money. They're talked about ad nauseum. And Jerry's all over the place
Titans.
Because that is their first priority. It is not, as much as they talk about Super Bowls, winning a Super Bowl. And I agree with Plaxico 100% that in football franchises, where it is about winning first, winning second, winning third, this would not happen because players, Nick, would know. I just got in the league. Let me not start a podcast. I haven't won anything. Or they would know not to stay out of another man's pockets, right? Don't get in, mess with his money. That's what they always say. But when your owner is constantly running his mouth, talking about all manner of things, every microphone that's put in front of his face, he's willing to talk. Now your star defensive player is like, hey, let me do the same thing and talk about stuff. And now Malik Hooker, your free safety who doesn't get the attention probably that he thinks he deserves, is going on a podcast saying everything. Saying stuff that other people would only say off the record. All right? And so this is the Cowboys. This is what they do. Yep. And this is why, Nick, as much talent as they have had the last several years, their culture is a problem there. And everybody can see it.
So this is where I think clearly the Micah podcast had rubbed Malik the wrong way, and that was a legitimate gripe. This is where I think we lose the plot a bit.
Oh.
Because with respect to Plaxico Burress, let's talk about those two organizations that he talked about. The Pittsburgh Steelers. 4 years. In fact, he's been on the show, Andrew Filipponi. 4 years, Andrew Filipponi hosted a radio show in Pittsburgh. He still does, but this part's no longer going on. That every Tuesday, Ben Roethlisberger would go on intentionally 1 hour before the start of Mike Tomlin's weekly press conference and drop little bombs that Tomlin then had to respond to improvisationally at the press conference because it had just been said right when Tomlin was going up there. And the Steelers that's not ownership, that's the Rooney family. And that was because they had a player who wanted the attention and was going to be a little hard to deal with. The New York Giants and the Mara family, we had a minor national breakdown about their diva receiver for 2 years about kicking nets and Instagram photos and boat trips. So this idea that this is part and parcel with the Cowboys rather than part and parcel to talented, maybe a little over his skis star player that feels like, what are you going to do to me? That is not a Cowboys problem. That is, pick your franchise, and he just said two, and I instantly had two examples of when something like this is going on. So I don't buy that is a Cowboys problem. I do buy that Brew was right, that Micah's podcast could cause issues, because it clearly has. But I don't think that's a Cowboys thing. That's not a Jerry Jones thing.
Can I Micah's podcast.
Sure.
It's not a huge money maker.
Well, here's the thing. I think
it might be for
I think for
huge money maker.
I mean, it's probably
making millions of dollars off the podcast.
Well, but remember, he's still in his rookie salary too.
I don't know. He just got that big promotion at
He's the
Report. I bet
president
it's a
now.
big deal. Yeah. But go ahead.
If I was Micah Parsons, I'll be me for the time being.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of taking up is it called hand gliding or hang gliding? When you're
Hang gliding.
Hang gliding, when you go here and you launch yourself off of a mountain.
Yeah, hang.
I'm like, should I do that? And you're like, no. And I'm like, Dusty, should I do that? You're like, no. Like, should I do that? You're like, no. Brew, do you think I should do that? Do you think? And everyone is saying no. I'm like, I'm gonna do it anyways. If Micah went around to people he respected and be like, what do you think about my podcast? You think I should do a podcast? I think you would hear a lot more no's.
Oh, I
This is a pain
totally
than
disagree
yeses.
with you. You don't really?
You think you would hear a lot of yeses? Like, yeah, man, do it.
Yeah, I think
Seems like it's.
I think if you looked at it, if you, again, to use your ridiculous analogy,
It's not ridiculous. I love it.
If a lot of if Ernie Johnson
Yeah.
was a big time hang glider and Scott Van Pelt was a big time hang glider, you might be like, you know what? This is the way to go. Yeah, I mean, if you're Micah, LeBron's got a podcast, Draymond's got a podcast, Richard Sherman's got a podcast, a lot of guys.
You know what else they have?
The Kelseys have a podcast.
Yeah.
I understand.
Jewelry.
Right. Thank you. So
and they're veterans.
Yeah, so-
That's my thing.
No, I understand that.
I don't mind a player having a
No.
podcast, but
No.
mature a little bit, win a little bit.
And that's well taken. But why I think that Micah's not. And here's the other thing that I think is unfortunate and unfair not unfair. There's a good and a bad to it. One of the reasons that Micah's podcast has any traction at all is because he's a Cowboy. But it's also one of the reasons that it's the only one of these that gets dissected. It's the only one of these guys that we are listening to every word and finding stuff for. There's too many podcasts. There's not enough time. So, like, it's easier for you're only these shows and those things.
Because of the Cowboys.
Yes.
Because they're entertaining.
Yeah.
They're entertaining.
But so do you think?
That's why.
Let me ask you this, because this is where my pushback with you on, even though I think you have been correct about the potential issues. Malik Hooker made it clear. Malik Hooker proved your point.
He probably wasn't just speaking for himself, to be honest.
Agreed. So on that one, you were right on. Like, flatly. You were like, there might be a teammate that has an issue with it, theoretically. And then a teammate's like, hey, guys, I have an issue with it. I think you're focused too much on the podcast. So that was correct. Where I disagree with you is this. If the Cowboys, in trying to sign CD and sign Dak, were like, you know what? We have to trade Micah. We have to trade him. If they had done it this offseason, traded Micah, what's the most serious organization in football? The New England Patriots.
Oh, yeah, we're locked
They
in.
traded him to the Patriots for 2 first-round picks. You think he quits the podcast? Because I don't. I don't think it's a Cowboys thing. I think that if he were traded, he's still doing it. And then maybe we don't care about it anymore. But you understand what I mean? That's where I think it's unfair.
But I think a serious organization could say to him, look, we'd rather you not do the podcast. The Cowboys can't say that because the owner's running his mouth every opportunity he gets.
See, but why would he listen to him? Why? That's my thing is if he wants to do it,
Because there's drama in the
players
team.
in the locker room,
It's an unforced error in the team, within the organization.
got it.
it's just unnecessary.
My point is that I don't think if Micah Parsons wants to do this podcast, I don't think there is anyone that can stop him. He is too good of a player. He's too good.
He's unstoppable.
No. You understand what I mean? Like he's
a great player.
He's a great player.
Is he a great podcaster?
Well, he's trying to be.
Here's the thing.
All right, go ahead,
if
then
they really, and I don't think they built the roster to win the Super Bowl this offseason. All right, so, but like say with last year, they still are S-Bob because they're the Cowboys. But if they really want to be serious and all in on, we've heard that a lot, all in. You know what all in should mean? Jerry Jones saying, you know what? I'm no longer going to be standing outside the locker room after every game giving an impromptu press conference. Mike McCarthy is now the voice of the Dallas Cowboys on Sundays. I'd like to see him even give up his weekday radio or weekly radio appearance.
I like that.
Yeah, of course, we like it. Is Clark Hunt doing that stuff?
No, but
Robert Kraft doing any of that? The last 2 dynasties we've seen?
But I guess don't you think some of this is a little passé? Don't you think that in today's NFL, if anyone's like, don't do these things, that some of these guys are like, what are the Chiefs? So you want us to be more like the Chiefs? Because they have a popular podcast.
If it's a distraction, if the Dolphins had a ping pong table,
They're like, this is a
No,
distraction.
hold on. Remember, Wilds. Remember that wasn't actually what happened.
I know, but then
that's
they're
what
like,
they said.
That wasn't
designing it. But
Tyreek is doing like that's my point.
Again,
like, it's
he's
just
a
what it
veteran
is.
though, and he's got a championship, not with the Dolphins, but he's got a championship. If Jerry Jones gave up his pot or his statements that he's making every week, and then he could go to Micah and say, look, it's all football this year. Let's go get this ring. I'm giving up my public pronouncements. We want you just to focus on football and give up the podcast. I think he'd do it.
We got to move on to Dak, but I'm going to solve this, and then we're going to move on.
Okay.
He actually just needs a co-host. For real. He just needs a co-host. So when you're in the pre-production meeting, it's like, then I'm going to talk about our defensive plan against the Eagles. Like, no. Let's talk about an old memory from high school. Like, oh, that one's good. Let's do that.
I can't wait till he has Malik Hooker on. That's what they need to do. Clear the air.
Well, you're trying to promote the podcast.
They should. I mean, if he's going to do it right.
Oh, Hobbs is yelling at me because we have to get into a pipe dream of his. Former NFL executive Mike Tannenbaum said the Raiders are producer's favorite to give Dak a blank.
Raiders tattoos.
Anyone want to take a reaction to this? Not you, Hubs. Get out of my ear.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I mean, this is why Dak has as much leverage as any player in like modern NFL history. Because it doesn't matter what happens this year. Somebody's going to do this. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, have you seen the Raiders quarterback depth chart? I know you like Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew's good. You want to see that? Hey, Dusty, pull up that
the Gardner Minshew versus Trevor Lawrence thing from CBS Sports. That's a good one.
You're like Matthew. That's a good one. I read that book, too.
Nice topical pop culture reference as well.
Boston is still very
so here, like, I just think there is nothing that is going to lead to Dak Prescott not becoming the league's highest paid player next year. And the Raiders are going to need a quarterback. The Giants are going to need a quarterback. And those two teams are two teams with real history. Yeah. In the Giants' case, real money. The Raiders, less money, but still enough money to pay their quarterback. And, either brand new stadium in Vegas, in New York with the Giants. And so those two teams by themselves, not to mention the Steelers maybe, if neither one of these quarterbacks. So you're going to have at least two, if not three, suitors that are not like branding-wise terrible for Dak. Right. Those are all prestige franchises. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, somebody's going to do this, which is why Dak is not worried about taking anything less than probably a fully guaranteed deal from Dallas because he knows he'll go get it in this offseason.
And my take on Dak has always been he needs to realize he's fortunate to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
Because he would not be a celebrity quarterback if he weren't doing it with the Cowboys. But now I've changed my tune on this.
Oh, wow.
I actually think it would be good for Dak to go somewhere that's just the football franchise. Where that's what we do. We're not worried about the drama, the soap opera, all of this. But no. I get Vegas. Vegas is my first choice if Wilson and Fields don't work out would be Pittsburgh.
So he can do that old big.
The Giants got to be better. If I'm Dak, if they have a bad season this year, I'm not really trying to go to the Giants. He needs to go somewhere where it's only about football and they have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl. Because that's really all that's left for Dak to do. I mean, I know he's still relatively young and he's got a long career ahead of him. But what we want to see from Dak Prescott is win a Super Bowl. And I really think if he goes somewhere where all the noise is quieted, like Pittsburgh or even the Raiders, I know they've had their Vegas, but still, I think it'd be better for him. Okay. And I wouldn't mind if he ends up doing that.
Dak and Belichick package deal somewhere.
I do like that.